In today's brief video, I want to share with you guys why I have chosen to eliminate my weed consumption versus trying to limit my consumption of weed. If you wind up enjoying the video, I made a free 7-step guide PDF on how to quit smoking weed today. I also made a PDF called the 11 Foundational Pillars of Recovery, which are things that I do to help me stay away from going back to weed and nicotine and adult media. You can find those for immediate download in the pinned comment or the video description. Now, the reason why I've chosen to eliminate consumption of weed versus limiting it is because I'm not good at setting limitations or parameters on hardly anything in my life. If you look at the name of our company, Addiction Mindset Recovery Coaching, the addiction mindset is the person who has that mentality of doing things to the max. This is the person who doesn't really understand boundaries. This is the person who doesn't really understand limitations. And I think for a lot of people who wind up addicted to cannabis, they fall into this mindset or this mentality. Now, when it comes to trying to limit weed consumption, I always found that to be very, very counterproductive to everything else that I was doing in my life. When it comes to my businesses, I don't believe in limiting my income. I don't believe in limiting my business potential. When it comes to my physical health, I don't believe in putting limitations on how far I can push my body and finding out what I'm physically capable of. When it comes to my relationships, I don't believe in limiting being able to take care of my family or being able to provide for them. When it comes to anything in life, recently I was looking at scooters, electric scooters, and I couldn't just buy a regular electric scooter, I had to buy a hyper scooter. I don't do well with boundaries. I don't do well with limitations. And any time I try and set a limitation on myself, it becomes frustrating and it becomes something that I just simply try and push through or power through. So for me, I started to view quitting weed not as limiting my intake or saying, okay, I can only have a little. I viewed quitting weed as the removal of a limiting factor in my life, okay? If I look at weed and what cannabis was doing to me, right? It was limiting my physical health, which in turn limits my ability to do certain things throughout the day, whether that's work-related, family-related, workout-related, it doesn't matter. Weed was limiting my physical health. If I look at what weed was doing to me, it was limiting my finances. I didn't have leftover the money to go buy a hyper scooter or to pump back into my businesses that I'm so passionate about. It was limiting me from not only a financial standpoint in that case, but also a business standpoint. Weed was limiting my relationships. I was someone who became more and more isolated throughout my weed smoking, and weed was limiting me from meeting that special person, which has now ended in a marriage. I could take almost any category of my life, and throughout my entire weed addiction, I always viewed it as, I don't want to quit. I don't want to limit my weed intake. I like doing things to the fullest, including substances. I failed to realize that addiction, that weed, was actually the limiting factor. Okay? Limiting factors are things that stop people from growth. That's the definition of a limiting factor. Okay? Once I had that shift in mindset, once I saw weed for what it actually was, not something that I should be anxious about limiting, but something that I should rather eliminate because of the limitations weed was placing on my life, quitting became significantly easier. And this is also where you go from a closed mindset to a growth mindset, which is exactly what you want to approach life with. And it's for this reason that I never try and moderate my weed consumption. It's for this reason that I never try and limit it. I also think the problem with limiting weed for me is it trains me into a mindset of limitation and a mindset of moderation. And that is not my goal in life. I'm not set out to be a moderate person. I've said this in other videos. I don't want to start putting barriers or limits on the way that I think. What I've learned since quitting substances is that the mind is an extremely powerful thing. And I think the amount of untapped potential that I'm capable of, that you guys watching this video are capable of, is incomprehensible. And I want to do my best to not limit that, right? I think life is already very limited. We have a limited amount of time on this earth, right? We have a limited ability already to use our brain. What is it? We only use like 20% of our brain power. So I refuse to ever set more limitations beyond those that already pre-exist in my life, or the limitations that I'm going to run into that aren't by choice, the limitations that, God forbid, I may inevitably suffer one day, whether that's just through the aging process or hopefully tragedy doesn't strike, but you never know. I'm never going to purposely set limitations again, because it's the exact opposite of what I have, and that's that addiction mindset. It's that all-in mentality, stop at nothing to get it done. And I don't ever see the point in trying to dampen that again, especially if I'm using it towards things that benefit my life versus things that limit my life. If this video helped you guys out, be sure to check out that pinned comment to learn more about our one-on-one paid coaching programs, our group community coaching programs. We have a WhatsApp communication platform and all that stuff. Or just follow me right into the next video where you can learn more about why I don't moderate my weed consumption. It's similar to this one, but slightly different. I'll see you guys there.